Hi guys, welcome back to Vidyanagar online science class. It's time for us to continue our sixth chapter, physical and chemical changes. In today's class, you are going to learn rusting of iron, galvanization and crystallization. Shall we move on to our today's class? Okay. Rusting of iron. As the iron is used in making materials like ships, car bodies, truck bodies and other materials, the loss due to rusting of iron is huge. Which means rusting of iron produces damages to the car bodies, ships, truck bodies, etc. Or it damages the iron materials. Rusting of iron damages the iron objects, and if you want to correct these iron objects, we have to spend huge amount of cash. That is, loss due to rusting of iron is huge. Why loss due to rusting of iron is huge? Because rusting of iron damages the iron objects, right? If there is any damage on the iron objects, we have to spend more amount of cash to clear that or correct that. So that is, loss due to rusting of iron is huge. Because in order to correct the damaged body parts of car, ships, trucks, etc., we have to spend huge amount of cash. That's why the loss due to rusting of iron is huge. Right? Okay. So what is rusting? Rusting is a process in which if we leave any iron objects outside for more time, by the action of oxygen and moisture, they acquire brownish deposits over the iron articles. This brownish deposit is rust, and this process is rusting. If we keep these iron articles outside for long time, you can see the formation of brownish substances on the iron articles. This brownish substance is rust, and that process is rusting of iron. So tell me, which are the necessary requirements for the rusting? We need to set up three materials for the rusting, like iron, oxygen and water. If these three objects together, or if these three things together, definitely you can see the process of rusting. But it's a slow process. You cannot see this rusting of iron within 1 day or 2 days. You have to wait it for more time because it's a slow process. So which are the necessary requirements, or which are the materials needed for the rusting of iron? We need an iron, oxygen and water. We need an oxygen, iron and water. If these three things together, definitely there is rusting of iron. Right. So how can we represent this rusting of iron in the form of an equation? Look on the screen. You can see one equations there, like iron plus oxygen plus water gives, one arrow you can see there, right? So that arrow is gives rust. So what is rust? Iron oxide. So iron plus oxygen plus water gives iron oxide. That iron oxide is rust. So how to represent that rusting of iron in the form of an equation? Iron plus oxygen plus water gives iron oxide. That iron oxide is rust. Then I told you three things needed for the process of rusting, like iron, oxygen and water. If these three things together, you can see the process of rusting, and the rusting is a slow process. So you cannot see the reaction within 1 day or 2 days. You have to wait it for more time. Then guys, how we make a solution for this rusting of iron? I told you rusting of iron makes great damage or there is a great loss of money, right? So in order to save the money or in order to save the huge loss, we have to prevent the rusting or we have to prevent the iron from the rusting or we have to stop the process of rusting. For that, what we can do? The solution to avoid this rusting is to cut the contact between iron, oxygen and water. If this iron, oxygen and water together, there is rusting, right? So we can do one thing, we can cut the contact between these three. You can cut the contact between these three. If we cut the contact between these three objects, you can stop the process rusting. So which is the way to stop the rusting? Only way to prevent the iron from the rusting by breaking the contact between iron, oxygen and water. For that we can apply materials like oil, that is oiling. We can apply oil on the iron, that is oiling. We can apply grease on the iron, greasing. We can apply paint on the iron, that is painting. This painting, oiling and greasing cut the contact between iron, oxygen and water, right? And we can do one more thing, we can apply some metals on iron like chromium and zinc. Just like the oil and grease, we can apply some metal on iron. We can give the deposition of metals like chromium and zinc on iron. So by putting the metal on iron, what we are doing there? We are breaking the contact between iron and oxygen and water. So if we apply zinc on iron, that process is known as galvanization. If we apply or if we put the coating of zinc on iron, that process is known as galvanization. So galvanization is the process of deposition of zinc on iron. If we keep the coating of zinc on iron, what is the process name? Galvanization. So galvanization is the deposition of zinc on iron is known as galvanization. So we can prevent the rusting by breaking the contact between iron, oxygen and water. For that we can apply oil, oiling, we can apply grease, greasing, we can apply paint, that is painting, and also we can apply some metals on iron. If we apply zinc on iron, that is galvanization. I told you loss due to rusting of iron is huge. As you know, ship is made of iron and the iron ship always sail on the water. The lower portion of the ship always inside the salt water. The lower portion of the ship always inside the sea water or salt water. So this salt makes the process of rusting faster. So the presence of salt makes the process of rusting faster. So ships suffer lot of damage due to rusting in spite of being painted. Right? So the lower portion of the ship is always inside the seawater, or there is a contact between the lower portion of the ship and the seawater always, and the salt present in the seawater makes the rusting process faster. So you can see the formation of rust in the lower portion of the ships, very fastly, because salt makes the process of rusting faster. And due to that, we have to replace that portion of the ship every year. For that, we have to spend huge amount of cash. Okay, I told you the lower portion of the ship always inside the seawater, and seawater contains salt, and salt makes the process of rusting faster. So ships have to suffer lot of damage due to rusting in spite of being painted. So that we have to replace that portion of the ship every year. For that we have to spend huge amount of cash. The lower portion of the ship is always inside the seawater. Seawater contains salt. Salt makes the rusting process faster. So ship have to suffer lot of damage due to rusting of iron in spite of being painted. So we have to replace that portion of the ship every year. For that we have to spend huge amount of cash. So the lower portion of the ship is always inside the seawater. Seawater contains salt in it and salt makes the process of rusting faster. So ship have to suffer lot of damage due to rusting in spite of being painted. So we have to replace that rusted portion of the ships every year. For that we need to spend huge amount of cash. So loss due to rusting of iron is huge. Now we can discuss about crystallization. As you know, salt is obtained from the evaporation of seawater. Salt is obtained from the evaporation of seawater. So the salt obtained from the evaporation of seawater may contains impurities. So if you want to use this salt, first we have to remove the impurities. Impurities means unwanted substances. Okay, so if you want to use this salt, first we have to remove the unwanted substances from the salt. So which method you can use to remove the unwanted substances from the salt? You can use the crystallization. Okay, so salt is obtained from the evaporation of seawater. The salt obtained from the evaporation of seawater may contain unwanted substances, that is impurities. If you want to use that salt, first we have to remove these impurities from the salt. For that you can use the process crystallization. Then what is crystallization? Large crystals of pure substance are formed from their solution. Large crystals of pure substance are formed from their solutions. This process is known as crystallization. What is crystallization? Large crystals of pure substance formed from their solutions. This process is known as crystallization. Guys, what is crystallization? In crystallization, large crystals of pure substance are formed from their solutions. So we get the large crystals of pure substance from their solution. Then that process is crystallization. Large crystals of pure substance are formed from their solution. This process is known as crystallization. Large crystals of pure substance are formed from their solution. This process is known as crystallization. Then now we are going to discuss about the crystallization of copper sulphate. How we get the crystals of copper sulphate. For that you have to take a cup full of water. Take a cup full of water, then add little amount of sulfuric acid into it. Take a cup full of water, then add 1 or 2 drops of dilute sulfuric acid into the water. Then place it over the burner. Allow to heat. When the water starts to boil, when the water inside the glass starts to boil, you have to add blue color copper sulphate into it and stir it thoroughly, mix it thoroughly and add maximum amount of copper sulphate into the water. Then filter it. See, may that solution contain some dust, dirt, etc. So filter it and you will get the solution of copper sulphate. Place that copper sulphate somewhere, keep undisturbed and wait for 1 or 2 days. You can see crystals of copper sulphate. How they formed the crystals of copper sulfate? The water from the copper sulfate solution evaporates by sunlight. So the water in that solution evaporated with the help of sunlight and we get the crystals of copper sulfate back. Okay, let me repeat it. Take a cup full of water, add 1 or 2 drops of dilute sulfuric acid, then place it over the flame. When the water starts to boil, add copper sulfate and stir it thoroughly. Add maximum amount of copper sulfate. Then filter the solution and place this solution somewhere. Keep undisturbed and wait for 2-3 days. You can see that the crystals of copper sulfate formed in that cup. How they formed the crystals of copper sulfate? By the evaporation of water. See, all the water from the copper sulfate solution evaporated and only we get the crystals of copper sulfate. We need to get only the copper sulfate crystals, right? We don't want to get the water. We need to get only the pure crystals of copper sulfate. Now we got it now. How we got it that? What are the process we have to, or what are the steps we have to maintain there? Take a cup full of water, add 2-3 drops of dilute sulfuric acid, place it over the burner. When the water starts to boil, add maximum amount of copper sulfate solution, copper sulfate powder, stir it thoroughly, then filter the solution, place it somewhere for 2-3 days. Automatically the water from the copper sulfate solution evaporates and we get the crystals of copper sulfate. So this is the method to get the crystals of copper sulfate. What is crystallization? Large crystals of pure substance are formed from their solution. That is crystallization. And how to do the crystallization of copper sulfate? Take a cup full of water, add 1 or 2 drops of dilute sulfuric acid, place it over the burner, and when the water starts to boil, add maximum amount of copper sulfate, stir it thoroughly, filter the solution, and the solution after the filtration keep undisturbed or keep it somewhere. After 2-3 days you can see the crystals of copper sulfate. What may happen there? The water from the copper sulfate solution evaporates and we get the crystals of copper sulfate. Explosion of fireworks is a chemical change. Explosion of fireworks means burning of crackers. Burning of crackers is an example of chemical changes. When we burn the crackers, they produce heat, light, sound, and also produces fumes. When we burn the crackers, we get the products like heat, light, sound, and fumes. And these fumes pollute the surroundings. That's why you are advised to not to play with fireworks. Why you are advised to not to play with fireworks? Because burning of crackers produces sound, light, heat, and also fumes, and these foul gases or these fumes pollute the surroundings. Burning of crackers produces heat, light, sound, and also produces large amount of fumes. These large amount of fumes pollute the surroundings. That's why you are advised to not to play with fireworks. Burning of crackers produces heat, light, sound, and also it produces large amount of fumes. These large amount of fumes pollute the surroundings. That's why you are advised to not to play with fireworks. Have you heard about ozone layer? This ozone layer protects us from the dangerous radiations from the sun. Ozone layer is a protective layer in the atmosphere. This protective layer protects us from the dangerous radiations of sun. As you know, sun emits dangerous radiations like ultraviolet radiations. So these ozone layer protect us from the ultraviolet radiations. If these ultraviolet radiations hit on our body, we may get the dangerous diseases like cancer, etc. So the protective layer in the atmosphere, ozone, protect us from these dangerous radiations. If these radiations hit on our body, we may get severe diseases. So ozone is a protective shield, or ozone act as a protective layer, and this protective ozone layer protect us from the dangerous radiations like ultraviolet radiations from the sun. If these ultraviolet radiations hit on our body, we may get different severe diseases. So I told you, explosion of firework is a chemical change, and explosion of fireworks produces heat, light, sound, and also produces large amount of fumes. So you are not advised to play with the fireworks. And ozone layer act as the protective shield. These also ozone layer protect us from the dangerous radiations of the sun, and sun emits dangerous radiations like ultraviolet radiations, and ozone layer protect us from this ultraviolet radiation. If this ultraviolet radiations touches on our body, we may get different severe health issues. So that's all about today's class. Hope you got it the points. Watch the video carefully. We will meet you soon with another video. Till then, it's bye. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.